Picture a quiet street somewhere in the Midlands. A couple in their late 20s are standing on the pavement, and they are holding a set of keys. Behind them is a £270,000 semi-detached, 3 bedrooms, a small garden, a driveway. They are smiling for a photo. And here is the thing that should stop you in your tracks. You know this couple, not them specifically, but the type. They are not bankers, they are not lawyers. One works in marketing, the other for the local council. You know roughly what those jobs pay in that town. And when you run the numbers in your head, the maths simply does not work. So how is ordinary Britain, nurses, teachers, account managers, actually buying homes in 2026? Because it isn't wages, not on their own. There is a hidden infrastructure underneath the British property market, and once you can see it, you can never unsee it. Let's build the wall they had to climb. Most high street banks in 2026 will lend a couple around 4.5 times their combined gross income. So take a fairly typical pairing, earning £50,000 between them. 4.5 times £50,000 gives you a mortgage ceiling of £225,000, but the house costs £270,000. Line those two numbers up, and a gap opens between them, £45,000. That is the deposit. That is the part the bank will not touch. And here is where the dream quietly breaks for most people. £45,000 does not come out of your gross salary. It comes out of what lands in your account after income tax, after NI, after HMRC has taken its share. Then you pay rent out of what's left, because you have to live somewhere while you save. Try to build £45,000 from the scraps at the end of each month, and you are not looking at a savings plan, you are looking at a 20-year project. The wall, on salary alone, is essentially unclimbable. So think of the property market as a fortress, tall stone walls, a single door at the top. If all you have is your salary, you are standing at the base of those walls trying to climb them with your bare hands, slipping, gripping, losing ground every time rents rise. But some people don't climb at all. For them, a mechanical drawbridge comes down. Someone on the inside lowers it, and they simply walk across. Here is the uncomfortable part. They end up at exactly the same door, in exactly the same house. From the outside, in the photograph with the keys, the two families look identical, but the effort required to get there was not remotely the same. One family scaled the wall, the other was let in. So who is lowering the drawbridge? Meet the single most powerful lender in Britain that has no branches, no logo, and no interest rate. It's called the Bank of Mum and Dad, BOMAD, and it is no longer a bit of luxury help for the fortunate few. It has become the silent engine of the entire market. The reality in 2026 is that more than 60% of first-time buyer couples receive help with their deposit from family, and the average gift is around £35,000. Now look back at our gap. The gap was £45,000. A gift of £35,000 doesn't just help, it very nearly closes the whole thing. So the honest truth about a huge share of the couples holding keys this year is this: they did not save their way onto the ladder, they inherited their way onto it early. The deposit isn't a reward for discipline, it's a transfer of wealth, one generation to the next, handed over the moment it's needed rather than written into a will. But not everyone has a family with £35,000 to spare. So, what do you do if the drawbridge never comes down for you? There is one lever left, and the government built it. It's the lifetime ISA, the LISA. Here is the mechanics. Each person can put in up to £4,000 a year, and the government adds a 25% bonus on top. That's up to £1,000 of free money per person every year. Now make it a couple. 2 LISAs, 2 bonuses, and you are gifting yourselves an extra £2,000 a year from the government, purely for saving toward your first home. Run that over several years, and the bonus alone can be worth more than the stamp duty on the property. For the couple with no wealthy parents, this is not a nice to have. It is the last springboard left in the room. Now, let's talk about the trick hiding inside the mortgage itself, because even with a deposit, the monthly payment on £225,000 at a 5% 5-year fix is heavy. On a traditional 25-year term, that's around £1,300 a month. For a lot of households, that number alone is a rejection letter. So what happened? The term got longer. Stretch that same loan over 40 years instead of 25, and the monthly payment falls to somewhere near £1,100. Suddenly it fits. Suddenly, the affordability calculator says yes. But read the small print of what just happened. They did not make the house cheaper. They did not earn more. They simply took the debt that used to end in their 50s and pushed it into their 60s and 70s. 40-year mortgages don't solve the price. They lower the monthly friction by selling off your retirement in installments. You are affording the payment. You are not affording the house. And this is where I want you to picture a sealed room with a fixed amount of air in it. Buying a house with a big mortgage at 5% interest is like living in that room. Every single month, the payment takes a deep gasp of your oxygen, a large, non-negotiable breath out of your finances, gone before you've decided anything else. When the air is plentiful, you barely notice. But now imagine one economic storm, a redundancy, an illness, a fixed rate ending, and refixing higher. The oxygen in the room suddenly drops. The people who make it through are the ones with a reserve tank, savings, family who can step in, a buffer behind them. That reserve tank is, once again, the hidden help. Without it, the very same house, the very same mortgage, becomes a room where one bad month means the air simply runs out. There's a quiet moment that arrives for every homeowner. Not a dramatic one. It tends to come on some ordinary morning, maybe at the start of the month when the payment leaves the account. And in that moment, you find out which of two people you actually are. Are you a majority owner, someone whose home is genuinely, mostly theirs, with real equity behind the front door? Or are you a tenant of the bank with a nicer doormat, someone who owns the wallpaper and the worries, while the institution owns the walls? The keys feel the same in your hand either way. The difference is entirely in the infrastructure underneath you. Which brings us to the last move, the one the financially sharp couples use, and it's genuinely clever. It runs through the tax system. Once a household's income climbs past a certain point, around £60,000 of adjusted net income, HMRC begins clawing back their child benefit through the high income charge. But adjusted net income is not the same as your salary. Pension contributions, especially through salary sacrifice, come off before that figure is calculated. So a couple can deliberately sacrifice more salary into their pension, drop their adjusted net income back under the threshold, and keep the full child benefit they'd otherwise lose. The reclaimed benefit then quietly funds mortgage overpayments, or tops up the very leaser and pension pots that got them through the door in the first place. They are, in effect, using the tax code itself to help pay for the house. That is what financial sophistication actually looks like. Not earning more, but arranging what you already have so the system works for you instead of against you. So step back and look at the whole picture. That couple on the pavement with the keys were never lying to you, and the maths was never wrong. You were simply only shown half the machine. Home ownership in Britain has quietly stopped being an individual achievement. It has become a family operation, a relay of gifted deposits, government bonuses, stretched decades and clever tax moves, all working underneath a photograph that looks like one couple's success. None of that makes the couple undeserving. It just means the honest question in 2026 is no longer, how much do you earn? It's what is underneath you. Because true wealth was never really about getting the keys. It's about what the front door becomes once you're inside. For some, it's a foundation, the solid ground the rest of a life gets built on. For others, it's a beautifully painted cage that quietly swallows every pound they earn. The house can be identical. The two lives behind that door could not be more different. And now, you can see exactly why. If this video helped, like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.